Received a letter from JC International Acquisitions, also known as CreditLink Account Recovery Solutions, or even had them knock on your door? There are few things that will rob you of sleep and push stress levels up, like a debt collector chasing you for money. Today we'll tackle this by looking at 5 of the most important things you need to know when dealing with JC International Acquisitions, also known as CreditLink Account Recovery Solutions. Just to be clear, I don't give financial or legal advice, I'm just making sure that you have access to the information that you need to make informed decisions. So, number 1, are JC International Acquisition debt collectors legitimate? If you don't recognize the company name, it might be that they purchased your debt or that they're a debt collector collecting on behalf of another company. I can confirm that JC International Acquisition, also known as CreditLink Account Recovery Solutions, is a UK registered company. Whilst there are a bunch of scams out there when it comes to debt collectors, I'm afraid this is unlikely to be a scam. However, you should never pay unless you are certain that the debt is yours. You're well within your rights to ask JC International Acquisition to provide proof that the debt is yours. What happens if you ignore JC International Acquisition? Well, your problem could escalate and become very serious. JC International Acquisition does have the right to take court action against you. If you were to ignore court letters, then you could end up with a county court judgment, which could have a major impact on your credit scores and your chances of borrowing money in the future. If you do get a CCJ and still don't pay, then this could ultimately result in bailiffs coming to your home to take your valuable items or even your car. There's a big difference between having a debt collector like JC International Acquisition chasing you and having bailiffs coming to your home. I can't urge you enough that now is the time to take action on your debt while there's still options available to you. So please don't ignore JC International Acquisitions, and we'll get to what you can do instead later in the video. What are the rules that JC International Acquisitions have to follow? Well, despite being legally appointed to collect your debt or outright owning your debt, there are several things that JC International Acquisition cannot do when it comes to collecting debt. Knowing what JC International Acquisition can and can't do will make you feel a lot more comfortable and confident when dealing with them. They are not allowed to visit you at your place of work without you giving them specific permission to do so. Before this rule was put in place, some debt collectors would show up when you're working and try to make things awkward for you as a way of pressurizing you into paying. On a similar note, they are not allowed to speak to neighbors, friends, or family about your debt. Again, this is to stop them trying to embarrass or shame you into paying your debt. JC International Acquisition debt collectors can't contact or visit your home at unreasonable times of day. For phone calls, most people would agree that calls before 8 AM are too early and calls after 9 PM are too late, but your circumstances might be different. For example, if you work a night shift. If you can't take calls at certain times, then tell them. They should keep a record of this and avoid calling you at these times. By the way, for home visits, the regulations say that debt collectors need to clearly explain the purpose and the intended outcome of the proposed visit and give you adequate notice of the date and the likely time of a visit. You're well within your rights to complain if they keep calling or keep visiting your home at times that you told them to avoid. Next, it's also good to know that they are not allowed to act in a threatening or an intimidating way. Also, they should never pressurize you into paying larger installments than you can afford or hitting payment deadlines that are impossible. The regulations say they're not allowed to pressure you into selling your home or to take out more credit to pay back debt. Also good to know, JC International Acquisition debt collectors can't pretend to be bailiffs or enforcement agents. Unlike bailiffs, debt collectors can't force their way into your house or refuse to leave when you've asked them to, and they are certainly not allowed to take any of your belongings or to clamp your car. Okay, so how long can you be chased for debt? Well, under the UK's Limitation Act of 1980, a creditor has 6 years to chase most unsecured unpaid debt, or 12 years for some mortgage debt. This limitation period starts from the time of your last payment, or when you last acknowledged the debt. Ultimately, debt collectors cannot enforce their debts through the courts after 6 years. But if you've already been taken to court and have a CCJ registered against you, then there's no end date for how long you could be chased. How do I pay less and come to an agreement with JC International Acquisitions debt collectors? Well, there are a number of ways that you might be able to reduce the amount you pay. If JC International Acquisition are adding interest and charges to your debt, then you could ask to freeze them to help you get back on track and clear your debts quicker. Debt collectors are more likely to stop or reduce interest and charges if you can prove that you're in financial difficulties. Maybe you could put together a budget showing your income and essential living costs so that you can clearly demonstrate your position. You could also use that same budget to negotiate reduced payments. Again, for this you'll need to show why you can't afford higher repayments, so make sure that you're clearly showing your income and essential living costs so that you can demonstrate what you can afford. Sometimes debt collectors will only agree to reduced payments for a short period of time, and at the end of this period then they'll want an update on your situation. Other times they will agree to much longer repayment times. It will depend on the nature of your debt and your individual circumstances. If you have the cash, then you could make a final settlement offer. This is where you ask if they will let you pay a lump sum instead of the full balance that you owe on the debt. In return for having a lump sum payment, some debt collectors will agree to write off the rest of the debt. These aren't the only options that are available in the UK. There's actually a bunch more. Some are free to use and others will include fees, and each will have their own pros and cons. If you want to find out more about the debt solutions I mentioned, or find out about other debt solutions available here in the UK, then we've created a really great form that you might be interested in checking out. Click the link in the description to get started and answer a few simple multiple choice questions like the total amount of your debt, how many people you owe, your living situation, and we'll connect you with one of our trusted partners so that you can find out more and start taking steps towards improving your financial situation.